I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, February the 21st, brought to you in part by Bovalis Vision. Clostridial vaccines that spur cattle forward, never backward, with the spur adjuvant that boosts vaccine performance while causing fewer reactions and reducing stress post-vaccination, which we all know is a problem. Each bottle that you buy earns you a chance to win a custom Greeley Hat Works cowboy hat. Enter at poweredbyspur.com. Those are hyphens in between powered by Spur. Free day. Don't get these very often. You got to take advantage of them when you do. That's when people are still going about their business like normal, but it was President's Day and the board was closed. So you got to enjoy the fact that your cash markets could just act like they normally would with supply and demand, and you didn't have to worry about the board trying to kill any kind of motivation that you had going. And just when we thought that feeders couldn't get any higher, guess what? They did. I said that, several guys ribbed me, said, you know better than that, said that feeders couldn't get any higher. I just said they won't make any money. I'm not saying that guys won't give more for them, because they need to. They're short bought. They have to get them in their system. And some of these bigger feedlots definitely do. My late friend Bob Foote, top 10 cattle feeder in the nation, once told me, he said, you can't run motels with empty rooms, and you can't run feedlots with empty pens. There's a lot to be said for that. And that's what happens sometimes when you get into a deal like this. These big feedlots, they have to buy cattle. They have to keep those pens full. If they're on a sweetheart deal, they've got to keep cattle in the rotation because they're going to need them to fill their obligations later on down the road. But pretty tough sledding if you're wanting to pencil out any of these feeder cattle, these cattle going right into the feed yard, to make money, even though we're on a fat cattle market rally, even though your live cattle futures contracts are pretty strong up there. We've just launched these things with today's input costs and cost of gains into a level that we can't reach, guys. And I know everybody bets on the come, but you'd be easier just to go to Las Vegas and let it sit on red, or the vice versa, or whichever one you wanted to do. But it's not a good wager right there. But got another big winter storm coming across the northern plains here later this week. I mean, they have just been hammered and hammered and hammered, but lots of moisture. What did they need? Lots of moisture. A lot of snowpack up there across the northern plains, especially in South Dakota, many areas of Nebraska. It's going to make moisture, guys. It's probably going to make some flooding whenever it starts melting, especially if it melts all at once. But down here in the southern plains, hey, the wind's cranked up. I was videoing bulls in Tucumcari, New Mexico on Monday, and man, was the wind cranked up just steadily. It wasn't gusting 30 or 40 miles an hour. It was blowing 30 or 40 miles an hour without any hesitation. And so what does that mean for us that live down here in the southern plains? It's springtime. And so everybody's getting excited about spring, and they feel like it's already here because we just haven't had much winter weather hardly at all. We had that one little bit there around the 1st of February, some ice storm there that come through, but for the most part, hardly anything in the southern plains. And what does that mean? We're dry, super, super dry. There's very few wheat pastures that'll support cattle grazing. Those that have been pretty well grubbed out. We've had a few deals that come across, but if you get 20 hundredths or 30, and then the wind blows all day 40 miles an hour the next day, that's gone. And that's what we've been getting, and that's typically what we get here in this time of year in the spring. But we are hearing that some of these patterns are changing a little bit. The waters in the oceans are changing back, and we could get into a pattern where we might accidentally get some moisture down here in the southern plains, and boy, could we use some of it right now. Would talk about the board, but it was President's Day. Remember, free day. Don't have to worry about that. The latest available Friday's close had your February live cattle futures at 163.57. Even though we gained a bunch of ground last week in our fat cattle market, that's still nearly a $2.50 premium to what your 5-area weighted average is. So pretty waspy there. Let's talk about your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade on a direct basis in your 5-area feeding region. 62,700 sold negotiated cash. That compares with 87,700. You remember the week before when they all sold on Friday night. And same week a year ago was 80,700. So quite a bit lighter this past week than what we typically see this time of year. But still, it was a decent movement. They acted like they weren't going to buy anything as late as Thursday afternoon, and then they got right with it. And so proud of the negotiated sellers holding their ground, demanding more money, and look, they got it. They're going to get it. They'll keep getting it as long as they keep doing this, and we don't have something that knocks us off this pedestal. But live sales of steers and heifers last week from 157 to 162.50. That was all higher. Your Northern Plains sold $1 to $2 higher for the most part, from 159 to 161. Southern Plains was $2 higher at 162, pretty much straight through. Weighted average on live steers 161.17. That weighted average price was $1.55 higher than the previous week's weighted average. That's a pretty good gain there. Dress sales ranged from 254 to 258. Northern Plains sold most of their dress sales $3 higher at 257. And you look at your weighted average on dress steers, and your 5-area weighted average was 256.78 dressed. That was up $2.87 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Nationwide negotiated sales, negotiated cash, 76,600 head. That compares to 108,400 the previous week and 98,700 the same week the year before. Of that 76,600, about 23% of it, or 17,400, were sold for the 15 to 30 day delivery. Why guys are doing that, I don't know. Likely those cattle are still going to be picked up before that because your packers are so short bought. But do not give them a toehold, guys, to crank this market back when they get the opportunity. Don't be selling them any cattle out front. They're going to use it against us as we go forward. But you look at your other ways to sell cattle out of the feedlots there. Negotiated grid was 42,800. Forward contracts 18,000. Formula sales 267,900 head. Talk about price discovery. Of all those sales I just mentioned, only the negotiated cash 76,600 actually gives price discovery or market transparency. And why we can't get more than that, we've painted ourselves into a corner. Guys have gotten a slave to that formula trade and using it as risk management in some ways. And it's just it's pitiful that we've gotten backed in here. That's one reason that we're having to wait for this higher market that we should have. Still getting $1 or $2 every week here, but should be able to gain it a lot quicker than that. They sure take it back a lot quicker when it's their turn. Box beef cutout values higher again. And wouldn't it be great if we could sell fat cattle like your packers post these box beef cutout values? We could just price them at whatever we wanted to, and if anybody wanted to buy them, they'd buy them, and if they didn't, they didn't, but it still got posted as the market. That's kind of the way your box beef cutout values are. Choice cuts posted up 185 at 282.89. That's $17 higher in the last 2 weeks on choice cuts. Select up 216 at 268.05. Your slaughter only 104,000. They're letting people off on President's Day too. A lot of schools weren't even closed for President's Day, and that's pitiful. But only 104,000, and that was 22,000 less than a big week last week, and still 6,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma's got a big run here today on Tuesday. About 3,000 head plus. Was told they'd sell somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 by the time it's done. Going to have the regular nice selection of load lots of yearling feeder steers. Got about 12 loads, 8 to 9 weight yearling steers. Probably another 4 to 5 loads of yearling heifers. And some of them, including 2 loads especially, are going to be replacement quality. They've got 2 loads of replacement quality heifers, home raised. Everything's been done from Guyman, Oklahoma. The guy had planned on keeping them back for replacements. He just ran out of feed and he had to bring them in. They're all black. There's a scattering of black baldies on there. I was told if you need to make them completely black, they can sure do it for you. Get a hold of them at Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. Go on to dvauction.com, view and bid their sale if you're interested. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction late in the day on Monday, sitting at 183.65, up another 67 cents with some big-time impressive sales on Monday, even at your high-volume markets, which, you know, you're not going to get those buyers excited and give more than they wanted to. They just need the cattle. And that's what the market does. Whenever you can rely on supply and demand, you don't have the board jacking with you on this free day. Board's closed, but trade's still happening as usual. You guys, you got to get some protection on yourself if you're going to be background in cattle. These prices are too high. And Night Latch Group out of Oklahoma there, they've got crop insurance, they've got LRPs, they've got gross margin policies for you guys that are feeding cattle too. LRPs don't work great for feeding cattle. Gross margin policies do if you're doing it with somebody that knows what they're doing. Go to nightlatch.net for more information. Talk about your big sales on Monday, high volume sales. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, 8,000 head there. Pretty active market and a unique trend there, and they do a good job with their trend in Oklahoma City. Feeder steers steadied at $2 higher. I think they were steadied at $2 lower last week, so we gained that back. Feeder heifers $4 to $7 higher. Now stocker type steers, your 6-weight stocker steers, kind of calf weight yearlings there with a lot of condition on them for a compensatory gain and a quick come on. $10 to $14 higher on those. Calves were $4 to $7 higher. I saw a stick out deal from National Livestock Commission, 90 head, 884 pound steers bring $179.50 in Oklahoma City on Monday. Big price. Joplin Regional Stockyards had 9,200 head. Bigger sale yet. Steady to $4 higher for the most part, with the exception of those pee-wee calves that guys are now starting to get very interested in, especially thin pee-wee calves. They get them down there in southwest Missouri, guys, and they had several consignments of those, and they were sharply higher, including a package of pee-wee light thin steers, 39 head of them, weighed 313 pounds, bring 303. There's your $3 calves I promised you several weeks ago. How about your Zoetta stick-out sale of the day? Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, Worthing, South Dakota, 6,500 head all together. Pulled this automated market report from Cattle Market Central, and you saw your best tested weights there. 414 head of 5-weight steer calves, average 553 with a weighted average price $219.78 on all of them. 603 head of 6-weight steer calves, average 644, weighted average 201.05, and 871 head 7-weight steer calves, Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, average 741 with a weighted average price on nearly 900 of them at $189.39. Look at some heifers. 467 head of 5-weight heifer calves, average 547, weighted average price $194.80. 853 head of 6-weight heifer calves, average 654, weighted average price $183.82. And 578 head 7-weight heifers, average 738, weighted average price 174.25. Got several individual quotes to give you. It was getting kind of hard to find anything to impress you guys here towards the end of last week, but I'm going to impress you again. How about Treasure Valley Livestock in Caldwell, Idaho, way out west where they've had moisture? 85 steer calves weigh 446 at $2.76 a pound. Elgin Livestock Sales, Elgin, Nebraska, that's eastern Nebraska, guys. 127 steers weighed 941 at $180.85 a hundred. How about Aberdeen Livestock Sales in Aberdeen, South Dakota? They sell 72 steers, weigh 618, $2.30 a pound. But the best quote that I saw anywhere, your Mackerson, no BS, top quote for the day, come from my old buddy Dwayne Penny, who's now commissioned his cattle, his customers' cattle into Tina Livestock Market there. That's in northwest Missouri, very rural. These were feeder heifers, probably good enough to keep, but sold to be feeders. 74 head of heifers, weighed 683 at $1.90 a pound. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.